Yeah, let's do this. Hello, everybody. Brie Milani with Sky Insurance, and welcome to another episode of the Greatness Podcast. I'm super excited today. I actually have a co-host and a guest with me, so I'm going to send it on over to my co-host for the day.
Hey. My name's Megan. I'm an agent here at Sky Insurance, and I'm super excited to be on the podcast. I've never done it before, so
Yes, so exciting.
Hope this is all right. But I'm super excited to introduce our guest today, Miss Stephanie Brennan. She is a loan officer with Guild Mortgage. How are you doing, Steph?
Hey, Megan. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, I'm excited to have you too. I don't know a whole lot about you, so this is going to be exciting for me. Usually when I interview people, I'm like, I already know that about them. So this will be new for me. So I'm excited. So I know, you know, when you came in, we talked a little bit. You've been in the industry for about 5 years and all of that great stuff. So what led you into the industry? Tell us a little bit about, you know, your family and where you're from and things of that nature.
Of course. So I actually was born and raised in the Bay Area. I'm from Pleasanton, so I'm one of those Bay Area transplants you hear all about. I did come here straight from college in the Sacramento area. So I went to Chico State. I lived in Sacramento for a little bit where I owned a little condo by the Arden Mall, if you're familiar with the area. And then I actually sold my condo during this pandemic that everyone's so...
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. And then I moved up to Placerville, so I have a little bit of acreage there with a dog that absolutely loves to run around. She should have white feet, but they're usually brown up in that area, so it's definitely cute. And then I have 2 chinchillas and a new fiance during the pandemic as well. Yay. So it's definitely been a crazy ride.
That's so exciting. I know when you first came in, I was like, talk about if you're married and all this. So you're talking about you and your fiance are going to get married next year?
Yes, next June. So we're almost at the 365-year countdown.
Woo, which I know is when everything gets serious. It's like, okay, time to buckle down, start looking at venues, all that good stuff.
So venue and the dress are the only things that are done so far.
Wow, you're ahead of schedule. That's amazing. I know for me, I was like, once we hit the year mark, I'll start figuring it out.
I'm a planner, so once the 365 countdown starts, that's when I'll start to panic a little bit.
Have a little bit of a mini meltdown, but you know, that's all in the fun of getting married.
The norm.
Weddings.
Yeah, so Megan mentioned you work for Guild Mortgage, and we were talking a little bit about that. So tell us like your journey into mortgage, how you got started, and kind of what you're doing now.
Of course. So after school, I graduated with a business degree with a little bit more of a focus in marketing. So I started out in mortgage and mortgage marketing. I worked my way up to a regional marketing role. So I covered the Bay Area branches while living in Sacramento. So I had a couple hundred loan officers that I would guide through Facebook marketing and just how to build relationships with agents. So along the way, I built a lot of relationships myself. And I thought, wow, this is a great way to incorporate marketing, which I absolutely have a crazy passion for, along with helping people through such an intricate process. When I bought my first condo, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I didn't understand the mortgage process very much. For those of you that have bought a house, you'll understand this jargon a little bit better, but the loan officer I worked with actually bought me out of the entire loan worth of mortgage insurance. So it was an upfront cost that I didn't need to pay, and I wasn't aware that I was doing that. So I wanted to make sure I educated people and friends and family on what they were actually getting into and what their options looked like. So I came from a wanting to help people, essentially, background.
And that's awesome because I know it's really, we had another guest on here, and she had a very similar experience with her mom. She was put into this loan that she should have never been put in, and that's kind of what catapulted her into this industry. So we need more people like that in the industry that are really geared towards trying to help people and, you know, make a difference, because it's the biggest transaction of most people's lives that they'll ever have.
Definitely. It's not the same thing as buying a car. It's definitely something that you have to look at strategically and financially. It's a monthly cost that you're going to be paying. The good thing about it is it's a fixed cost rather than rent, which could potentially go up annually.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's part of why we work so well together. Stephanie and I do a lot of deals together, and she refers to us frequently, which we love. But, you know, it's really, we love to educate our clients, which is something that you love to do as well, which is, I don't know, I think that's why we
And a lot of
are a good
first-time
team.
home buyers, that they don't know
Yeah.
anything. I know
It's hard. I don't know anything.
Yeah, right? You're like, how do I do this? I know when I got into the industry, I was 20, and I'm like, what's insurance? Isn't that what you use when you have a car, And I had no idea. So it's important to have people who are like-minded, that are wanting to help people out, because at the end of the day, it's like that's the most important thing we can do in our jobs. So now, how did the two of you meet? Because I don't think I know the full story on that.
Well, Stephanie found us and emailed us. You go into that.
Yeah,
part.
I'll touch on that a little bit. So when I was fresh in the industry, I was trying to find and build my own referral partner base. I like working with people that are very similar to me, very bubbly and friendly and responsive and customer service oriented. So there's a lot of insurance agents out there that do a lot of business and it lacks on the service side of things. So you can't get a hold of them when you need them.
Right.
I've never had a problem getting a hold of Megan. She has been phenomenal. I actually found Sky Insurance on Yelp. So it was one of the few insurance agencies that had a 5-star review, and it's definitely held up.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I send all of my clients that give me permission to Megan so that she can do a review of either the policy that they were already quoted or just to give them something to compare to. A lot of times, Megan saved my clients like $600 a year just on a policy with better coverage than what they were getting.
Yeah, that's huge. I know we were just doing one before when you were here. It's like amazing that we get these policies and we're like, they are so disgustingly underinsured.
It blows my mind every time. I don't know how people get away with it.
It's something that you really need to take a look at and understand. There's just so many levels of coverages, and it's just like with loans. There's so many options and so many products out there that you really need to kind of immerse yourself and make sure you either trust the person that you're working with to guide you or know what you're getting into.
Right. Yeah, so Steph found us and started emailing us, and we were like, I don't know who this is, but she seems real cute. This is really fun.
And that never happens, to be clear. Usually we're like knocking on loan officers' doors.
Hey. And she just kept sending them, and I was like, hey, can we, you're wonderful. Can we maybe meet? Let's do coffee. So we got, how long was that now? It's like 6 months ago?
Yeah, I think it was actually a little bit longer than that because it's
mid-pandemic, and we met for coffee with masks on.
Yeah, we were in Starbucks line with our masks on, and we're like, okay, so we can't sit here. So we actually went and sat in my car and chatted for a little bit.
Oh, that's so awesome. And it's cool to see, how we're, it's obviously work is what you guys deal with on a day-to-day basis, but I know you're like, we're going to her house tomorrow. Like, it's so cool when your clients that you work with become friends, because it's then that really, that level of trust that you're like, you are part of my team now, And I know you had mentioned before too that you even had push somebody towards your way because of, a deal that had fallen through. So it's great to have those relationships with each other because, this industry, it is full of some amazing people, but it is also full of people who were like, nope, we do not want to do business with them. So, so what really got you into the industry? I know you said you came from Chico or you were studying business at Chico, but what was like, I want to do mortgage. For me, I'm like, when people are like, how'd you get into insurance? I'm like, I honestly don't even know, because I went to Sac State for marketing too. And I'm like, I do marketing, but insurance, I never dreamed I'd be in insurance, honestly.
Definitely understand. Everyone has their own journey. So I actually have a family member that was in the real estate world. So I kind of got a taste of what that looked like through growing up. And most of the time that was phone calls during dinner and phone calls at 9 p.m. So I definitely knew what I was getting into.
That's important.
I started working at Chase Bank, and I actually had a referral partner mortgage lender that was in the office. So he was like, Stephanie, I don't understand why you're working as just a banker. Like, you should really look into mortgage. And I was like, oh, funny, like, sure. And then I actually found a position in marketing in the mortgage industry. And that's kind of where I got my foot in the door there. But what truly got me into being a loan officer, being a mortgage consultant, is the love of finances. Like, I'm one of those people that I want to make sure everything's set up beautifully so I can be on the beach during retirement.
Heck yes.
I look into the future, and I know a lot of people don't look that far. So having them work with me helps me plan that out for them just to kind of see what that would look like. Hey, okay, we have a 30-year mortgage here for you. This 30-year mortgage is probably not what you're going to be in the next 5 years. You're either going to upgrade, you're going to want to take money out to do some updates or to help pay for your child's school. Most people stay in a mortgage for a couple years. It's not the actual 30-year commitment that people think they're getting into.
Yeah.
And now with like refinances being so heavy, I'm sure you're seeing that. I think somebody had told me a statistic that like most people only stay in their loan, I think 3 to 5 years or something. And it's crazy to think about, because like for my husband and I think, well, we own a home to someday be able to pay it off, right, and not have a mortgage. And it's like we've been there 3 years and we've refinanced, you know. So you're like, okay, well, we've already started over once. So that's good advice, because a lot of people might not realize, like, you know, you might cash out, you might do something different. But I know the market right now is definitely heavy with refinances. Are you seeing that still in this market? Are refinances like crazy?
I'm still seeing a lot of refinances, but most of them have been towards the cash out focus, mostly because people are stuck in their homes and they're noticing that their home isn't meeting their needs anymore. As you all probably know, the market is crazy right now, and it's hard to get into something. So a lot of people are taking that as a time to update their home to fit them, whether it's adding a home office or adding an addition so that they have room for their extra kid that's on the way. There's a lot of reasons for people to do it. I've actually been seeing a lot of people taking advantage of the 10 and 15-year mortgage plans as well.
Oh, yeah.
So they're refinancing out of their 30 years so that they can get their home paid off much, much sooner. And there is a lower rate associated with a shorter loan term.
Yeah, I remember seeing like somebody posting like 15-year mortgages. I don't know what it was, but I was like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. It's crazy, because I'm sure when a lot of people gear towards retirement, they're thinking in 10 or 15 years, I would love to have my house paid off. Because I mean, that's my thought, is like, okay, well, we're nowhere near retirement, but you know, when you get to that point, you don't want to
pay a mortgage when I'm not, you know, on a regular income.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So are you seeing right now you're helping more people refinance or purchase, or is it kind of a good balance of both?
I actually am more purchase focused. I do help refinances, but since I haven't been in the industry for 20 plus years, I've been mostly helping new people become homeowners rather than helping people benefit the most from lowering their interest rate, lowering their payment, or taking some cash out. A lot of my clientele is first-time home buyers.
That's awesome.
And one thing that you may not know is that I do speak Spanish as well. So a good portion of my clientele speaks Spanish solely. So I'm very inept at helping that as well.
That's huge. I mean, it's not many loan officers out there speak Spanish. I know I'll see a post on Facebook like, anybody know somebody who speaks Spanish?
Yeah.
So I'll have to add you on Facebook, because I see it a lot.
That actually
have to
happens.
get Rosetta Stone or something to start learning.
Yeah, that actually happens a lot internally too. So I'll have some guild people that refer to me as well, so that I can help their Spanish speaking clients.
That's wonderful, because, you know, it's great to have, especially when there's a lot of that, you know, in detail type of paperwork. It's like, of course, you want to be able to serve somebody and help them that, you know, that's English is their second language, or they only speak Spanish. So you just are able to help that market. I know for us here at Sky, we're like, oh, we want somebody who speaks Spanish so bad. It'd be so wonderful. We'll get there eventually. Yeah. I know we will.
I'm counting down the days for that to happen too.
Yeah, I know. I think that was like the first thing you said when you got here. You're like, so when's that going to happen? Hopefully sooner than later.
Right.
Yeah. I keep bringing it up. I'll bring it into existence for you guys.
Manifestation.
Manifest all the way. So, okay, so you've been actually producing now for about a little over a year, you said?
Or a year and a half.
Year and a half. So, I mean, do you believe in like the philosophy is like each deal you do, you kind of learn a little bit along the way? And because of what I hear from people, and it's kind of the same in insurance, and I know how you've learned is just each deal, you know, you learn something in it. Like you had a flatbed F350 and the next day you get another one. So you're like, okay, I learned how to do that.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you're feeling like you're learning in this industry?
150%. Yes. So I actually had my last manager in these specific words, Stephanie, I've never seen such a variety of weird stuff that you're bringing in. So I've seen some of the craziest stuff. I've saved some transactions from other loan officers that weren't able to close them for a variety of reasons. But I've seen all sorts of stuff. I've seen a social security number that was, and this is all legally done. It was a fake social to do taxes with their real ITIN. And then they got a social assigned, and their 2021 stuff was all in their valid new social.
Oh my gosh.
So I've seen everything.
Did you close that deal?
I did.
Whoa,
yes.
That's pretty awesome. Because I mean, yeah, that's like the big things that people look for, somebody that are able to figure out those little nitty gritty things. Because let's be honest, I mean, some people get those perfect A paper type loans, but not all the time does that actually
Seems
happen.
to be less and less
If
common
I get
these
one
days.
of those, I'll literally like shed a tear
Jump
of
for joy.
happiness. But most of the time, my clients aren't just as straightforward as that. I have a lot of people that co-sign for other people, so there's tips and tricks and ways to navigate that. But it's not the standard like, oh, I can get that pre-approval to you in half an hour. I need a little bit more time to work through the kinks. So when I issue a pre-approval letter, I have reviewed everything. I know that there's going to be no surprises that I could have anticipated.
Right.
I can't promise there's going to be no surprises, but I did my homework.
Yeah, and that's important. So you would say it's fair. You kind of specialize in working with people who speak Spanish and first-time home buyers, and anything else that you feel like you're kind of specializing in?
Lately, it's been a lot of down payment assistance.
Okay.
So that can be a great way to get someone into a home. I don't know if you guys have taken a look at just like the appreciation of houses over the past year, but I purchased my home about 4 months ago, and obviously this is a Zillow estimate, so take it with a grain of salt. We all know that those are not very accurate, but in those 4 months, my home has appreciated through Zillow for over $40,000.
Yeah.
This market is absolutely crazy. I'm seeing offers 50, 100,000 over asking, and they're actually appraising some of the time too. So I'm not saying all of them are appraising, but the house values are going up, and we're only anticipate them to keep going up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Megan can speak on the insurance portion of that, is what we're seeing. Like, we're having to increase coverages because at the end of the day, if the house burns down, we have to make sure it's insured for what the market value is right now.
Well, and we were talking earlier, Steph wants to build a deck and she can't because the lumber prices are so high, which comes into play when we're, calculating replacement cost and all of that for insurance. So just prices across the board are going up.
Definitely. I'm a huge advocate for fixer-uppers. I bought a house that needed a little TLC because the more you put in sweat equity-wise, the more you get out of it in the long run.
As my husband and I just built a home through a builder because we're not handy at all. But trust me, I wish we were, because our first house we bought, within 2 years had $100,000 of equity in it. And we did do a lot of upgrades to it. I mean, we didn't, but we hired somebody to do some upgrades to it, and it paid off just crazy. But yeah, we're not handy at all. But if we were, we would do the same thing.
I gotta plug my dad and my fiance's dad in here. They're both contractors. My dad's a retired contractor. He flies out for a month at a time from Ohio.
Oh my gosh.
And he helps me update. He's actually at my house painting right now.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's
my
awesome.
housewarming is tomorrow, which is what Megan's coming to.
Yeah.
So exciting.
So he's trying to get it a little more prepped and
spruced up
a little bit. Yeah.
I can envision what your house looks like. It's probably just precious. Like, I can totally envision your style.
It's
what you got
going
on.
farmhousey. That's the goal.
Especially if you're on a little bit of property, you kind of have to. It kind of fits that goal. Well, yeah, I mean, so we kind of talked a little bit about what the market is doing right now, but let's dive into that. We're seeing some, and I don't know how much you want to talk about rates. We don't need to say today's rate is, but we're seeing rates maybe tick up a tiny bit. The market's still just on fire. And so kind of what are you seeing? And I know we talked a little bit about, where do you focus your main business? Is it just kind of all over Northern California? Are you just kind of, do you have a specific spot that you focus in?
So I'm licensed in all of California. I've actually done transactions as far south as like Salinas.
Okay.
I do a lot of Bay Area business, and I do a lot of transactions in Stockton, Manteca, Tracy, and those are usually the Bay Area commuters. So every county and every city has their own unique nuances for it, and I'm sure that's the same thing in insurance. Like up in El Dorado County, it's the high fire hazard zone, so you need to factor that in for the loan pre-approval process and prepping the client for what their monthly payment's going to look like with that, because it's
sticker shock.
very different. So we're seeing a lot of people, I know Megan was chatting with me about that, Bay Area people coming up this way, and they're getting sticker shock on just the insurance costs, because down there it could be $50, $100 a month, and up here it could be $250 very easily, if not $1,000 a month, depending on the property.
Right.
Yeah, and I know right now the market, anywhere I go, so I go to Chico, I go marketing in Chico, I go kind of everywhere, and everyone I talk to is just like, it's the same. It's just crazy. There's, hundreds of thousands of dollars I've heard of over ask, and I'm like,
it's nationwide too. I asked my dad about Ohio, and he's like, yeah, the houses are going over asking. You can't really find much.
Wow.
So if you get an offer accepted, like,
jump for
yours.
joy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a really fun saying that's in the real estate world. It's like, don't get too excited over a house until you put a ring on it. So the ring is getting the offer accepted.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's not a bad idea because, like you said, with High Fire, we'll get sometimes people will call us even before they're getting into escrow. They're like, "Hey, we're looking at these 3 properties before we even put an offer in. Can you give us a quote?"
We always push that.
Yeah, we just had a lady the other day who was looking at stuff up in like Pollock Pines and then Placerville and then El Dorado Hills, and then she got into Folsom where it's a little less high fire danger, and I was able to get her a policy, and she was like, "Write it now. We got approved. Let's do it." So we bound her right away. But yeah, it's crazy. You know, you're trying to get up in those areas, and then you're that much over asking price on the house, and then you're also getting that, you know, increased insurance rate as well. And
definitely
people are finding maybe it's not the best area to be in right now.
It really just depends on what you want from your home. A lot of people are using the area up a little bit more north in El Dorado County as a retreat because they've been locked up in maybe like a studio or like an apartment, and it's just the idea of having a yard is worth every penny.
Yeah. And I mean, you moved up that way, and my husband and I both were like, man, it'd be great to live kind of just out of all this craziness. But I mean, even up that way, we work with some agents up there, and they're like, it's still just as competitive. I mean, maybe not as bad, you know, maybe they're getting more like 10 offers instead of 50, but it's still.
But they're all over asking.
Yeah, all over asking. So, and you bought a home in the market, so you kind of.
I definitely understand it. Yeah. It did help having the right team behind you.
Right.
So knowing that I could process the loan was. Yeah. I mean, that was a little bit of a vote of confidence, but choosing the right team behind you, and that's everyone. That's the right real estate agent, the right lender, the right insurance partner, and just making sure everyone there is looking out for your best interests is just so important.
Yeah, especially, you know, like you said, in this market, because we did have another guest on, and they kind of said the same sort of thing. Like, you know, if you're not getting your offers accepted, maybe it's time to look at a new agent. Not saying that your agent's doing anything wrong, but there are agents that are still getting offers accepted. They're being a little bit more gritty, and they're doing what they've got to do to get their clients into the house, and that's what it's taking in this market. So it'll be interesting. What do you foresee happening in the next year or two?
In the next year or two, I think we might have a little bit of a flat line, but I do not anticipate anything dropping. I think that maybe we'll have a little bit more inventory with people feeling more comfortable having showings in their houses. I know a lot of people are going away for the weekend and then like maybe having a cleaning service come through after their house showing if they're very COVID conscious. It all depends on the family. I'm sure with school ending for a lot of the kids, it's going to open up a little bit more inventory as well for people to move. I foresee interest rates staying pretty low. The key thing to watch is inflation. Depending on what that does, we could see a spike in interest rates. But as of right now, I still think that they're going to be very close to where they're at.
Yeah.
And we say a spike, you're like, okay, it goes up to 4.5, and people don't realize that that's still such an amazing rate. You know, it's like we've just been spoiled with 2s and low 3s for the last couple years. So I think, maybe the last year and a half. So I think people are going to be shocked, or, you know, they say like, oh, they're just going to raise. And I'm like, that's so, you know, I remember probably about 3 years ago, I was at a PCAR meeting, and a lender stood up, and I think the rates were about 4.5%. He said, mark my word, they're not going any lower than that. And I actually know who the lender is, and I almost want to go and be like, so what do you got to say about that?
He didn't anticipate a pandemic, so we can give him that.
Yeah, we'll give him that. Yeah, that's very true. So one more thing I wanted to also touch on, I know we were talking about like you love animals, and there's something cool that you said that you do. After each loan you close, you go and you sponsor a shelter animal or a sheltered dog.
It's a shelter dog at the Sacramento SPCA specifically. So I have a great relationship with them there. We actually just finished up the Doggy Dash, which was like a charity virtual walk. It's usually in person at Land Park. So I truly am the craziest dog person ever. And it was a way for me to bring in a lot of my personality. I'll actually ask my client to pick out the dog. And they have the option of adopting the dog for themselves or just
have you had that happen?
That's dangerous.
I have had that happen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it is a little dangerous, but imagine someone going from an apartment to a house, and part of the reason they wanted that is to have a pet.
No, it's only dangerous because I would have too many dogs.
Yeah, so that's just something that makes me feel good. And
awesome.
I've actually had a client donate to the Sacramento SPCA in honor of like how much they love doing the transaction with me. It was really special.
And that's
so
amazing because that doesn't, I've
Yeah.
never had anybody tell me that. They
Yeah.
donate, to whatever it may be per transaction.
Yeah,
That's even cooler that they have adopted a dog. My husband would be like, do not do a loan with her because we will come home with another animal.
I know. Bree's a crazy animal person at this point.
I am. 2 dogs, 2 kittens, 2 kids. I mean,
Next up, a
Post-wedding is the
hamster.
second dog. And
I
we're
was gonna
actually
ask.
picking up a kitten here soon.
Cute.
So one of the agents that I work with, she's amazing. She actually had a random stray cat have kittens in her yard. So she was trying to find them homes instead of bringing them to the shelter. So we're actually going to pick one up next week. And it has leopard print.
Cute.
Oh my gosh. I could probably convince you to just get 2. Because that's what we did. The SPCA actually convinced us. There was this cute little, they were just sisters, and my daughter calls them twins. I almost said twins, but they don't look anything alike. And they were fostered together. And so we were like, we're just going to go get a kitten. Actually, no, we were like, no, we're not even going to get a cat. We're just going to go look.
Break them apart.
No, they're like, yeah, you can't break them apart. My daughter was like, I want 2. And the lady at the shelter was like, honestly, it's so much easier than 1. And we found that to be true. I was like, she's yanking my leg. This can't be right. It's so true because, we're gone all day. We work. And so I would feel kind of guilty just leaving it by itself and having little buddies. I'll come home and the whole upstairs is just their toys are everywhere. You can just tell they've had a blast the whole day. They don't need us to entertain them.
I'm sure the transition was easier bringing them home too, because when I got my cat, she meowed for a week straight. A week straight. I regretted not getting her, but like bringing her home alone because I was like, oh my God, she's never gonna shut up. And also, like, I think I broke my cat.
Why is she just
terrible? And then for like a month afterwards, her meow was just like it was she was broken, but she's fine now. This was many years ago, but yeah, I would totally have gotten 2 if I would have known.
So maybe you'll be coming home with 2 cats.
There you go, Steph.
Don't put that in the atmosphere, because the only reason we're getting a cat is because my fiance really, really wants one. So he's the reason we're getting this cat. I just happen to have found one, and I love leopard print. So the fact that the cat was leopard print, it was perfect.
Meant to be.
Exactly.
Okay, now I need to see this kitten because not that I'm getting any more. 2 is plenty. 2 is plenty, but yes. And I feel like animals just in general for us, like personally, our kids just love animals now. And so like we raised both our dogs from puppies and now the kittens and we had a cat before this, and it's just so good for kids to like be around animals. Yeah. So you said, maybe after that there'd be babies.
There you go.
Post-wedding, maybe. Give me a couple years.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple years, I guess. Well, it's been so good just kind of getting to know you. Is there anything else you want to add on or anything you want to touch on that we didn't touch on?
I think we covered about everything. If you guys have any questions after, feel free to give me a call or email.
Yeah. So actually, with that being said, I know you were telling me earlier how to find you, but what's the best way for people to get a hold of you? So
my website URL is stephmortgageconsultant.com, and that just directs you straight to my website. All of my contact information is there. All of my social media is there. So if you want to see which dogs are currently sponsored, feel free to follow me at Steph Mortgage Consultant on Facebook and Instagram, and you'll see all the pups. Right now, there is a husky, which was described as spastic with no spatial recognition. So sign me up. So make sure you have at least a yard for that one. That's awesome. Anything you want to add on to wrap it up?
I don't think so. I'm just really glad I got to come in and hang out today.
You did so good, and you both did amazing, and I'm really happy to have some different voices on our podcast, because I know it's been a lot of me, and I'm like, come on, get on it with me, you guys.
Gladly.
Yes. Well, we appreciate you all listening, and thank you so much for coming on, telling your story. It's been good getting to know you, and we're really happy to have you here. So thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks.